Okay, hello, this is Hannah Glazer for Feminism in Art, doing for, I believe, my third video. This was the week we did Romancing the Mirror and Embodied. I wanted to first start by talking about Romancing the Mirror, itself a bit, and then I hit a lot of the questions in the written portion, so for the visual, I wanted to discuss the art pieces pardon me, that I made myself and talk about how they are relevant to the work, was asked in class. Sorry, I'm gonna take a sip of water. My throat suddenly just collapsed. Okay, anyways. So, here you can see in Romancing the Mirror, this is I really love the entirety of the exhibition, but these are the pieces that stuck with me the most, especially because we had discussed in class, there isn't anything that defines them as being inherently feminine or being female, other than preconceived judgments on the commodification of women, I'd say, and heteronormative assumptions, as well as transphobic assumptions about breasts being inherently masculine or feminine, and then with the two objects, the triple swell and the perfect orifice, to me they almost read more like fruit rather than anatomy, but especially with the placement of the drip and how the marble has veining, it does begin to read like flesh, and from there the assumption about the gender of the object is made, especially based on the history of women being forced to be the object or commodity in art history, which is something I dealt with in my pieces, which I can now show. This is the first one I did. It's called Commodity, and it is a piece I did in Professor Amy Benion's class. For painting with the past, we were supposed to select an artist of any particular significance or medium, and use their work as a basis to influence our own, and use it to make a statement relevant to the work they created. I chose Alphonse Mucha because he was a printmaker whose style I really respect. I have issue with some of his choices, which I will discuss, but aesthetically, I was really interested in working in his style. But Alphonse Mucha was known in his works for creating these designs of really beautiful women in these huge flowing floral states, as a way to sell products. They were advertisements. They would be put in windows on train stations everywhere. And the thing that was always funny to me is that the products were never really shown nearly as much as the women. There's this one where it's a train advertisement, but the only implication at all you would get it being a train is how he has this usual spiral around it. But other than that, it's entirely focused on the woman in the countryside, in which he was interested in doing a lot of nature because of missing his own home, which had a lot of florals, and he incorporated the florals from his home. But anyways, so I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how women are used a lot in commercials and products as a way to advertise, and usually in a way that's it's either for their beauty or their sexuality. Women are used. You can look from the Alphonse Mucha to in the 1950s with the women sipping on Coke or doing the ads for the toothpaste, and there'd be these writings about how they're trying to win a man over with their beautiful smile, and just constantly women are used as a way to sell products. And so I wanted to do something where I stood it was going against this sort of capitalistic notion. So in my piece, I used myself as the model, and my friend Emily came over and photographed me in lingerie that's very specifically that looking slouched over, awkward, not at all the smooth flow and upright position of a lot of the Mucha girls. And I'm sitting legs spread, very unladylike, hunched over and looking right into the eyes of the audience, which some of the Mooka girls do, but a lot of them don't. But when they do, it's usually a soft, pleasant expression of like almost invitation, like wanting to come and see, like, which makes sense since it's meant to like entice someone into buying a product. But in my piece, I am intentionally trying to look as aggravated as I can. And while holding this water bottle, on the background being this dried up lake, this is an incomplete piece, so I'll also explain like where it was going with it. Like this dried up lake is actually a place called Strawberry County in New York, and it is an area where the Nestle Water Company has completely dried up the water there, and the citizens who live there now go through drought because the company, he just totally like used them as a resource, similar to how they use women. So I wanted to who like sort of capture this misuse of corporations using up like natural resources and using like women up like in a similar way. So I juxtaposed them together, especially since Mooka's usually got these really intricate like floral and plant life, and it's all very lush. I wanted the opposite, so I undertoned it this yellow, so it's going to be peeking through to make it look extra like sort of sickly almost, and continue the cracking into the background. I also referenced the motif of water bottles repeatedly to make it clear that it is Nestle and most water bottle companies, because it's not just Nestle doing this. And similar to how he always has his like writing to just sort of add in what the product is, I'm going to be writing like in French to again reference Mooka's original pieces. Water is not a human right, which is something that the CEO of Nestle has stated, which, if you could find anything sickening, I would imagine it'd be that. But anyways, so in the next one I did, it was another piece I was doing for Amy's class. This is the With a Cause painting. I went through a lot of different mock-ups before I came up with this version, but the piece is titled Portrait from the Perspective of My Professor, or Self-Portrait from the Perspective of My Professor, and it is a piece I made in response to a conversation I had with a professor who heard myself and my classmates talking about whether or not we would ever want children, and most of my classmates said that they never would, and I said I would, but I would only ever want to adopt because I don't want to be pregnant. And he was saying something along the lines of basically like, oh, you never know, you never know. Oh, like, what about if your husband wants to have kids, which was very strange to like sort of imagine. Like, he's one implying that my husband would have first choice over what I'm going to be doing with my body rather than me, and then second of all, that like I'm inherently going to marry a man. But anyways, so I did this in response to that, and I was thinking about sort of the like cartoony style of Philip Guston when he's dealing with like racial discrimination. Decided to incorporate it here for discrimination on the basis of gender there, and the whole also problematic idea that like women can be brought down to just their genitals, which is ridiculous since not all women have the same genitals. If we're like, cause yeah, anyways, so I did, like, in this piece, what I did was using a piping technique I know because I like to bake. I applied this acrylic, like, sort of raised acrylic base and wrote out repeatedly, "Is this my value?" across the painting in the shape of my figure, which I drew. And within, like, the part of it, I proportionally measured out how big my ovaries would be, which is rather small. You can see in the full size it barely takes up any space on there. It could be covered up by like 2 fingers. And then I painted out the scene of the classroom to like add to the discomfort of the power dynamic that would be occurring in this situation of a professor, specifically a white male professor, telling his student and anything about like her sexual anatomy, and also referencing the sexuality of the situation, and with the like desks intentionally looking sort of almost like pillows and beds. And I also used the color palette of pinks and blues to enforce the gender stereotyping that goes on in a situation like this. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to explain, especially because I know when I mentioned it in my writing, I don't want Eudora. It's like the issue's been resolved and everything's good. Anyways, thank you.